I want to talk about the specs and the features I want for my next TV. So having this LG C1, which is an amazing display for gaming, it makes it very tough to upgrade. So something to make sense. To upgrade to something that really is going to make a difference. So I'm gonna share with you realistically what I think I can get for my next display, and also just going a little bit beyond that, just in case LG is listening. I wish I had more power to move the needle, and I will give you a lot better. I will give you a much better display for gaming for sure if they listen to what I want. So this LG C1 is awesome. I was very frustrated at the beginning. The colors out of the box, they were muted. All those dimming mechanisms that were bothering me a lot. Black crush. I didn't know how to set up HDR. So I can definitely understand out of ignorance. Many people might think, oh, HDR is a scam, it's broken, and it is broken sometimes. But bad HDR implementations, and you don't know how to set up the HDR, it can be very frustrating. But after you learn that, after you figure that out, and that's what I've been trying to teach in this channel. Everything that I learned, I've been trying to teach that. After you figure that out, man, HDR is just awesome. HDR gaming is just next level. There's no graphic settings on any game that are going to make a bigger difference than HDR. No way. Forget about ray tracing, any settings. HDR makes a much bigger difference. So knowing what I know right now, okay, after almost 800 hours of experience with this LG C1, what are the features I'm gonna be looking for my next TV? I want a brighter display, and the reason is black frame insertion. So right now on this LG C1, I have to decide if I want awesome HDR, blurry, because this is a sample and hold display, and that's what we're going to get realistically. So I have to decide right now, do I want black frame insertion, get that motion clarity which is awesome, and sacrifice HDR, or do I want to enjoy HDR gaming? So HDR is awesome, but motion clarity is even more important for me. So my next TV needs to be brighter so I can get both, but it goes beyond that. Okay, I want 1300 nits, which I know is possible. It doesn't have to be WRGB OLED, it might be QD OLED, it might be a different technology. I don't know, self-emissive quantum dots, okay? Whatever it is, it has to be a self-emissive display so we can get those perfect blacks. And it has to be 1300 nits or more, okay? So I can turn on black frame insertion or whatever they call that technique, to clear that persistent blur. And I can still get 900 to 1000 nits peak brightness. So black frame insertion on this LG C1 reduces the peak brightness in 300 nits or more, okay? So 1300 nits minus 300, that's like 900 to 1000 nits. That's what you're gonna get. So that would be an HDR experience like the G2. So that's awesome. So not only that, it goes beyond that. They also need to make an adjustment for that gamma. So that HDR with black frame insertion looks the same as without it. So it tracks the PQ closer. So forget about the technicality. What I want is basically, I turn on black frame insertion, and the only difference that I see is less peak brightness. Is that possible? Yes, it is. It is possible. And the other thing I'm looking for, and I'm not sure if I can get that. Of course, the display needs to support 120 hertz black frame insertion. Absolutely. I'm not going, if it doesn't support that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because 60 black frame insertion is good. It flickers a little bit. So 120 black frame insertion is a must for me. It's just awesome. You get perfect motion clarity. So yeah, it has to come with that. But I want a little bit more than that. I want the option, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get this, very unlikely. But I want the option to set up custom resolutions for the black frame insertion, so I can get 65 hertz black frame insertion, 70, 75, 80, 85. Because for and 90, all the frequencies you can give me. Of course, ideally we want G-Sync or variable refresh rate with Motion Pro. That might not be possible. Very unlikely we're going to get that. But at least give me the option, give me more impulse waves, more PWMs for that black frame insertion, because for PC gaming there are some games that are more demanding and you cannot reach 120, or you have to sacrifice the image quality too much, so it doesn't make sense to sacrifice the image quality that much, or the CPU is just not fast enough. So give me the option to set up Motion Pro black frame insertion at 80 hertz. So maybe at 60 hertz it still flickers. Maybe at 75 the flicker is almost gone. At 80 or 90 hertz you cannot see the flicker anymore, and you get an awesome motion clarity. So when you move the camera, it just looks perfect, so you don't lose resolution. That's it. That is it. If they give me a display that can do HDR, so it can give me 900 to 1000 nits, ideally at 1000 nits HDR, and I can get that with the motion clarity, and I can get that looking the same as the G2, for example. So what I want is a display to be perfect HDR, so tracking that PQ as close as possible, and doing that with black frame insertion. And also, I want more black frame insertion options. If not, at least give me a 240 hertz OLED display. So how relevant would be a 240 hertz display? It would actually be very, very good if you can combine that with motion interpolation. So I guess that the challenge would be the processor. So the processor, to do the motion interpolation, it has to be a lot more powerful, because now you want to create from 120 frames or less up to 240. That's a lot. That's a lot more processing, but it might be possible. So if I can get a 240 hertz display that can do black frame insertion at 240, that would be incredible. So for example, if I can get on the game 60 frames, and then the display can do interpolation to get me up to 240, and then on top of that I can apply black frame insertion, I can get 480 480 frames motion clarity. So that would be bananas. And of course, give me that with the least input lag possible. So I would also be interested on my next display on motion interpolation. So if the motion interpolation has a lot less, it has to have a lot less motion interpolation artifacts, and ideally having a motion interpolation on game optimizer mode. So on that game mode, it doesn't have to be LG, it can be any brand. Give me motion interpolation with less artifacts, with better input lag, better responsiveness, and give me that on game optimizer mode, so I can get that responsiveness. So, or maybe have a separate mode for that is for gaming, and it feels more responsive. So a 240 hertz OLED display, it can definitely be an improvement, because even getting 240 hertz at 4K is almost impossible on any game. You're not gonna be able to get that. But if you can get 120, and then the display gives you another 120 with motion interpolation, and then on top of that you apply black frame insertion, you get 480 motion clarity with good responsiveness, because 120 frames is very unlikely to feel unresponsive. So maybe the challenge, maybe the decision there is gonna be, would I do that, or would I just play at 120 black frame insertion? Because 120 black frame insertion already looks good enough. So maybe it's not gonna be worth, to sacrifice any input lag to get better motion clarity, because the motion clarity is already good enough, and the input lag is gonna be fantastic at 120. So 120 black frame insertion might be just the limit, but I don't know. I would like to see, I would definitely like to see 480, and maybe I would change my opinion. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what are the features you're looking for on your next TV, especially for gaming, or maybe for console gaming. Motion interpolation is going to be a lot bigger deal, because gaming consoles are gonna do 60 for a long time, because 60 is just what makes more sense. Most TVs are 60 hertz. They might keep doing this 120 frames mode that goes down, so you can use VRR. That makes a lot of sense. But motion interpolation for console is gonna be a much bigger deal. So let me know what is that you are looking for.